good morning there. Good morning. Welcome. It is Thursday. One more day to weekend. How's that? Yeah. Thank you very much for joining me again today. This is my daily live stream. My name is Jimmy Cheng. I'm a professional photographer, filmmaker, and an Olympus ambassador. So this live stream is all about photography, filmmaking, and of course Michael Four gear, especially Olympus camera gears. So welcome to joining me this morning, and I do have something to talk about. And as you know, that my last few stream has all about gears and stuff like that. So today is a little bit different. We're going to go back to photography, and I'm going to talk to you guys about how to make better photographs. Right, I'm going to use an analogy for that. So let's get crack on. But if you're new here, if you don't know what this thing is all about or how I conduct my live stream, we usually follow some sort of a structure. So let me just guide you through a little bit, just a very short thing, so a couple of seconds for all the newcomer, new watchers, new streamers, you name it. So this is kind of like the structure we usually follow. I'll usually give a general update because this live stream is public and everybody in the globe can see me, and I'm an individual, I'm still a person, so I would like to keep my family and friends all around the globe informed that we are actually okay during this difficult time at the moment. So yeah, I just use this opportunity to just say hi to everybody. Good morning, Trevor. Good to see you back, and excellent. So we can get crack on. There's not much about channel updates because my YouTube is actually doing pretty well at the moment. And thank you for all of you guys joining me yesterday and the live stream. Yes, and because it was super fun. I nearly made the 2 hours long live stream, which is the longest at the moment. It actually broke my record from my previous streams, and I think I usually do about like 1.5 hours or 1.5 hours, but yesterday it was 2 hours long. It was but you guys were fantastic, like so much interactions there, a lot of questions. We chatted a lot of stuff about Olympus, so that was pretty cool. But like I mentioned, and today we're going to have a topic of the day and then a Q&A. But of course, if you have any question whatsoever, you just simply pop into the comment sections, and I will see populating in my little comment box here, so I will be able to answer accordingly. So there's no such a thing as a unique. I'm going to answer questions right at the end of this stream. I'm just going to see. As and when it's appropriate, I will just answer you accordingly. So good morning, Jason. Good morning, Marcel. Hey, that's very good. And oh, you can't see me. Oh, hello. And Burana, excellent. Good morning, guys. Very fantastic. You can't see me. Oh, that's something weird. And okay. Everybody hear me, seeing me okay? And if not, please leave some comments there. Hopefully everything's good. I can see my audio is going. I can see my video feed is actually okay, so it should be okay. But as you know, live stream is live, so anything can happen, and I haven't rehearsed this. It just go, I'm just going as flow. Oh, it's now working, Marcel. Perfect, that's fine. Okay, so everything's working. So let's get crack on. Okay, so this is the topic and the structure that we usually follow. So I'm going to talk about today's topic because it's very, very cool. And there we go. 1, 2, 3. Photography is like cooking, right? I hope you understand what I'm trying to say here, and because it's a lot of common themes going on between cooking and photography, which I'm going to explain bit by bit in a minute. And everyone love a dish, right? And a very well cooked dish, especially you go to a really nice restaurant, have some really fantastic dinner, like this gourmet dinner. It just it just makes you feel a lot better afterward. I can kind of relate that to photography in many ways, because first of all, if you break down a very well cooked dish, for instance, well, first of all, you have to look at the presentation, almost basically kind of like the overall aesthetic of the photograph that you create. And then of course it's taste. Yeah, the taste is basically when you're starting to digest the detail that you have within the photo, and when you're starting to munch it, like starting to chew it and tasting in your in your tongue and everything like that. This is when you starting to understand and read the photograph, and with all the stories behind it and so forth. And it's really interesting how that all relates together. But then there's also something else as well, which is the ingredients, which is you can not have a great photograph, or great dish, without any really lovely raw ingredients. So this is what I want to take you back from the beginning of photography, you know, like so before you consider, you know, taking any photograph, you know, you should you know, like to you know, make sure that you have all the raw ingredient that you want to capture that particular shot. So whether it's going to be a landscape, whether it's going to be a wedding shot, whether it's going to be a portrait, you know, macro, you name it, it applies to everything. Yeah, you know, like for instance, you know, photography, like I said it so many times in my previous photography 101 in my YouTube channel and any other streams that I've done on Facebook here previously. One of the single most important ingredient, first of all, in photography is light. Yeah, light is very, very important in photography, because without light you cannot capture anything. You know, of course, there is good light, bad light, you know, horrible light. You know, there's different type of lights there, and also there's natural lights, artificial lights, you know, and so you have to kind of understand all of these different types of lights before you can start cooking. And so let me just get rid of this cooking photo first, and then I will have some sample images today. So first of all, I'm just showing you a street photo that I captured, you know, last year, maybe a couple of years ago now. Actually, this one, you know, just to start with, you know, like if you do a lot of street photography, for instance, and it's a little bit more difficult or a little bit different to, for instance, a landscape or portrait shot. Street photography is almost like a documentary, wedding photography, for instance, and because things are random, it's very, very hard to capture the right moment. But this still doesn't take away the raw ingredient thing that I was talking about. You don't go out and just snap everything, you know, because it doesn't really work like that. You know, first of all, I already mentioned you need light, you need really good light. It doesn't matter. I mean, when I did say about like horrible light things, that's really actually not a light that is bad. It depends on how you cook it. And so in harsh light conditions, you can actually create something fantastic. For instance, in a very harsh light situation, you will get, well, two things. You will get very vibrant color, because, you know, the light was so strong, it will reflect into all kinds of surfaces, and you see a lot of colors going on. And then and also then you also get very high contrast shots. So like for black and white, in particular, you get this really punchy, sharp light and shadow definitions within the frame, so you can see a lot of textures going on. And so it really depends on what type of photographs that you want to create. And similarly, you know, if you have a really great chef, you know, like you know exactly how and when you want to cook certain things, and how to, the method behind it, you know, and also the cooking procedures. So it's, you know, photography is exactly like that too, you know. And so light is definitely something, and it really is important, because without light, you know, like I mentioned, there's no photograph. I'm going to keep repeating this because a lot of people don't understand it in terms of light. They always think that, oh, you know, because my camera can shoot ISO 2 millions, you know, I could shoot in the dark, you know. But that's really defy the points of photography, you know. That you really need to use high ISO for emergency purposes. You know, like paparazzi may want to use high ISO, ultra high ISO, because they need to capture that shot. They don't really care about image quality. But for everybody else, you know, if you're really passionate about photography, you're really passionate about quality of the photography, a good light, low ISO shooting is always the default you should be adhering to. Not so much about pushing the ISO, things like that. You only do that if you're really struggling with shutter speed and other things like that. And otherwise, you know, you really should follow the general rules of photography. So, okay, Ray. Hi, good morning, Ray. Thank you for joining me. And yeah, cool. It is, and it's really cool that people need to understand a lot of the ingredients point of view. So I talked about light now, so let's talk a little bit about something else. So of course, the ingredients part is all depending on the type of photography you are doing. Like, for instance, if you're doing a street photography, people is one big element there. You know, you need, you know, the people to be in the shots. I mean, is otherwise you're just shooting a cityscape, which is actually just pure building shots and things like that. Is not really so much about that street. Street is about that moment, about the lives living in that moment. So it's about people. And shots like these is that I'm showing on screen in the moment is an example of that reality that you're capturing. Not so, of course, the moment, and if you are really into street photography, there are different subsections within street photography. There is humor side, there is serious, and there is moments. There's a lot of different things going on in street photography. So I'm only showing you one example, but I'm trying to give you some sort of idea what sort of ingredients you should be looking into. So like cooking, people are here is like the vegetables and things like that, but you have to think about what you want as the main part of your dish. If you're cooking like let's say a beef steak, for instance, the beef, of course, is that main ingredient, is the center of focus, and everything like that. So you need that center of focus in that frame here. So you will need to see something that catches your eyes, or you want to capture your audience eyes. This is ultra important, because without that you have no direction. You don't know what you should be doing to be a great photographer. You can just capture a scene, but without that single point of focus, you yourself as a photographer will lose direction as well. So the beef, of course, that's the main ingredient. You need to start seasoning it, and then of course, and then you have to put a lot of side dishes, to accompany the entire dish. Not only just to make it presentable, but also to complement each other. So in this scenario, the girl in the scene is the main point of focus. You can see her looking right at me. Of course, this is the moment shot, because she wasn't looking at me in the first place. I was actually standing at the corner, waiting for her to look at me. Of course, that may or may not happen. It's a street shot. It's not posed. It just there and then. It happened. It didn't. I would just walk away. So I was just waiting there for that. And of course, everything has to be the right timing as well. And I'm hoping to get a window so she will be just sandwiched in between different people, so I can get that sense of reality that is not something that I can pose her up and do thing. And also, I needed some other people that look natural. So like the guy next to him was reading on his phone or watching some movie, maybe hopefully not 18 only things. And of course, the people in the front walking past, these are all other complement ingredients in this particular shot. And the lighting, like I mentioned about lights, the main key lights there is the window lights that are coming straight from the street, and there are also some background lights, the neon lights, and also other light bulbs that are at the back of it to give a little bit of a colors in the scene. And just a little bit like in your dish, you want to add a little bit of some of the vegetables, red pepper, green pepper, whatever, just give a little bit of colors into the dish. And the gravy is I'm talking about a lot about food now. I'm a little bit hungry, and so it's basically the color of choice that you're having, and ultimately I'm just basically, you get an idea. You need a lot of ingredients in your shot to make it work. It's not just one thing, and unless you are purely doing a commercial headshot, body shots, that's different. Because you are only selling that particular ingredient. That happens in dishes as well. If you just go into bread, for instance, and you just want to get a bread roll, just basically eat just the bread. It's nothing else. But having said that, there's still bits inside, and how do you make the bread is another thing. But yeah, you kind of get the analogy there. This photograph is just exactly like that. And right, Ray do have some questions. Let me just bring it up and just see. Out of interest, something I struggle with. Was the woman receptive afterward? I know it's 50-50. Right. Right, okay. Well, she seemed to be fine, actually. And I would say in street photography, when you photograph strangers on the street, there's no guarantee you're going to be well received during or after you photograph him or her. But in this instance, she was actually very happy for me to photograph her, and she, after this shot, after I, put the camera up, and she knew that I took a photo of her, and as soon as I kind of lowered my camera, she gave me a little smile. So she knew that I photographed her, but she seemed to be okay with it. So it really depends. I guess you just have to. Just be confident about yourself. I said to a lot of people, Marcel, you remember when I took you out and to do the workshop, one of the things I talk about when you're on the street photographing people is confidence. You need to present yourself not like a creep, for instance, because people hate that. People don't like that. You know, you need to be like a normal person. You know, you're holding a camera. You of course you are going to photograph something, whether it's going to be a person or just a street or something like that. You know, they will be aware of you, but at the same time you want to be invisible. I know being street photographer, you need to be invisible in most cases. You need to be discreet. But then you can blend in, and then. But the thing is, it's also if you are standing in a single location waiting for something to happen, people will start noticing you. And no matter how much you want to blend yourself within the environment, dressing dark, you know, and having small camera and just be as discreet as possible. But there are times, you know, people will start noticing because you are so stationary in a spot when everybody is walking, and depending on where you stand, of course, that also happens as well. So they will notice, but as long as you don't come across like a paparazzi, you know, then I don't think you should have much of a problem. I did that so many times in London, anywhere in the world. But then, of course, you have to understand there are cultural differences as well. I know when I was photographing in Hong Kong, people don't usually like you photographing them, depending on which area you're in, especially young children and some sort of business areas, you know, they just don't like you photographing them for some reasons. And I mean, I get, you know, told off a couple of times in Hong Kong, but there are other places that they just let me freely take photographs, you know, like Mongkok area and Tsim Sha Tsui area. You know, these places, they seem to be very happy for me to just snap as much as I want. But Central, Admiralty, you know, some other areas, they don't like me photograph people, you know, and but you know, I respect that. You know, that's whatever they want. You know, being a photographer, you have to be respectful as well. You have to be respectful to other people's privacy. You know, not you know. I know there are photographers that are quite intrusive. Bruce Gilden is one of them. He's very intrusive. He just goes straight into people's private and personal space, and so it's something that is entirely up to you. You know, if you are brave enough to do that and don't care about other people's privacy, then, you know, go ahead and do that. But I'm not that type of person, and I do respect people. So if they don't want me to take photograph, you know, I will walk away. You know, as simple as that. So let's give you another shot here, and and again, you know, about cooking and using cooking as an example. Timing, right? You know, like you don't want to overcook your dish, right? You know, you want to be perfectly cooked, you know, in the right timing, so that is very important. So in shots like these in the street or anywhere else, you know, if you're doing landscape shot, I don't have many landscape samples because I'm not a landscape photographer. I'm just using one of these street photography photo as an example. You do need a very good timing methods to photograph it. You know, for instance, if this lady just walks straight into the shadow, that breaks the shot. And if you go into the lined area, that may or may not work, but I just want her to be in that clean shadow area, so I mean the bright area there, to create that shot. Because I'm just utilizing the shadow of the building as, you know, as some sort of textures that I want to present to the viewers. So similarly in cooking, you know, you don't really want to overcook something. So, you know, that perfect timing is also key as well, and that applies to everything. So in photography, you know, you want to get the golden light, for instance. You know, you want to have that. Maybe you, when you're seeing snowing, you just want that, you know, the certain time that you want to have. For instance, a motion blur, you want to see some sort of textures in the frame. You may want to have that. Seascape photography, you know, same thing. You want a boat in certain places and things like that. So all these about timing. So like you don't have to, but you have to remember that. So timing is also very, very important. Of course, and if you look at a shot like this, for instance, it's also about timing, and also this time I'm getting a little bit more creative and starting to do a little bit of light painting, slow shutter, second curtain, kind of a lot of technical skills to do with this type of photography. Then, you know, once you get more advanced with your skills and like cooking, you know, you can start experimenting a little bit more by tweaking a little bit. When you cook, you know, you can start craft, you know, like carving something on a vegetable, you know, just make it more presentable. So these are very, very similar things. So that's why I always say to a lot of my workshop students, you know, if you cook, you basically know photography. You know how to photograph something. Not necessarily in terms of technically, you know, like how to do shutter speed, aperture, things like that, but the methods is very, very similar. You need to look for the ingredients. You need to have the point of focus. What is the main ingredient in your dish. You have to, that's the subject. You kind of have to understand all these little elements there. Timing is very important. So yeah, it's all this is very, very, good steps to understand, and also like how to layer the photographs is also as well. This is something that I'm going to talk about right now. So like for instance, like right here, I give you one of my lovely famous two dogs shot that I did, and you might have seen this shot multiple times already, because I not only did I put it on my streams a lot, but also because this has been distributed and published many times around the world. Is one of the shots that actually Lomography used on their newsletter and also their packaging as well. So it was a very lovely shot that I made with this particular scene. So in terms of cooking wise, like I mentioned, harsh light. This is very hard. You can tell the shadow there is not soft light. A lot of people think, oh, when you do a portrait, when you do something, I want it to be a bit softer. That's why I want to shoot in overcast situations. Yes, if you're doing purely just portraits, softer light will help a lot to, soften the skins, make everything looks a little bit more prettier, more presentable. But there are cases, I think harsh light is also very, very good. Like this particular shot, we did mention about black and white, right? When you have a very high contrast scene, black and white will give you that punch, because the hard line, the textures that you can get from a photograph is so different to photographing this in a soft light. So I think if you take this photo in a overcast situation, you will not have this dynamic in the shot itself. So so about layering, that's what I'm trying to actually get into now with this particular shot. Is that you think about how when you do presentation of your cooking dish, do you want your beef to sit above the vegetable, or the side dishes, or you have the actual meat on the plate in the center, then you have the complementing dishes, the vegetable and stuff like that on the side, or above it. So you have to kind of also think about this sort of thing as well. And when it comes to photography, like this particular shot, if you put the woman in front of the dogs, it would not happen at all. This just would not work. Or what about if the dog's kind of in between her legs? It may, but then you take away the punch in the photo, the strong element, is the message you want to convey. You would lose that as well. So for this shot to work, the dog has to be in the front. You really want to do that, and the women at the back, she's the side dish in this case, but that side dish is very important. It shows her authority there, being the owner of the dogs, and then and of course the dog itself, it has sort of character that usually following the owners as well. So you can kind of tell that from the dog straight away. This is something I want you to think about next time when you go and photograph something. It's all about layering, how you want to, or which ingredient you want to put in front, behind, in between, blend them together, something like that. You kind of have to make sure your photograph would work with the way you want to present it. Okay, and also then I'll just give you another shot here, and this is some shot that you have seen last week that I posted when I went to New York. And of course, you see this is kind of a very typical moment shot about utilizing patterns and also lines in the actual frame itself. So these American flag, the screen has 4 lines in the middle. 4 sections in the middle. Each section represents something, and it has something in the middle of the frame. So it's something about organization of your photograph. I'm just showing this as an example. That of course, if you somehow lucky enough to get all the ingredients that you want in each one of the section, it will be perfect, right? So this is again about cooking. How you arrange the shot is also very important. Not just about layering, what is front and what is back, but also how you present your photos. Overall, in terms of layout on the dish. Because dishes can also have different patterns, right? You can have round dish, you can have rectangular dish. And how you present your dish is also affecting the ultimate viewers or tasters viewing that particular display. What I'm trying to say now, fine dining, that's what I'm trying to say. Fine dining, you can see a lot of dishes being well presented. There's almost like an art. So it's no difference, right? Photography is also an art form. You have to make sure you present the right way as well, to making sure that your viewers or the people that you want to present to appreciate things that you create. So this is exactly the point I want trying to make here. Right, another thing here, just a wedding shot, you know, it's very typical, it's nothing special here, you know, of course you've got the bride and you've got a lot of bridesmaids here. Again, this is all about the layering, you know, the visual effects within here. And obviously, you know, the first thing you will come to see this particular shot is the light. And the light, remember, the light is important, right? The light is drawing your attention. So as soon as you glance through this this particular shot, you will see the window because it's the brightest spot. But you know, but that is exactly what I want you to draw into. You should just, because when you look at the frame, you would just capture by that bright window there. But immediately you can actually see the panning motion there. You will see the bride right there because she's also wearing white as well. So and then of course, you know, the sofa colors that kind of matches the bridesmaid's dress and everything else is a complementary dishes. And I keep using that. Actually, I shouldn't be using this as an example, isn't it? It doesn't look quite right, doesn't sound quite right. It's a bridal shot as a dish. And but this one, you know what I'm saying. You know, this is something that I would like you to kind of just get used to thinking when you next time when you do a photograph, because a lot depending on how you actually make that shot photography. Okay, let's get on to the next, my final example here. So this is this very simple shot, and once again it's black and white. Sometimes a very simple dish can be very delicious, right? You know, you'll agree. You know, you don't have to go fine dining. You don't have to spend hundreds of pounds for a very nice dinner to appreciate food. Food can be very simple as well, you know, and this is something I want you to understand. You don't need to overdo yourself, overcompensate yourself in trying to find something to complement the dish to make it work. No, you don't really need it. Something very simple can also be great as well. You know, this shot, it really shows that, you know, because there's nothing going on there. It's all about moment, all about light and shadow, and that's it. You know, this was shot in the Millennium Bridge from underneath, shooting up, and I was just looking at these boxes, the light boxes here. Basically, it's the mesh screw on the actual bridge itself. This is shining through from the top, and I was waiting for people, you know, just to walk across it to have the moment shot, and then the actual bridge, because it's underneath in a shadow area. All I need to do is just to basically increase the contrast level, and then and to create this sort of almost like a silhouette shot in a way. There's not much pattern there. The pattern is actually the grill themselves, and then the people would also be in silhouette situation because of, you know, I'm shooting up in backlit situation. So, but very simple. Can also do, you know, be very easy to do. All you need to do is just capture the, you know, timing. You know, also, you know, you have to appreciate and start understanding how you can utilize that light as well. So there you go. So this is kind of things that I want to talk about today, and hope you guys kind of get the gist of photography and understand more about ingredients, you know, how you assemble the photograph and things like that. I'm not really talking about technical settings, you know, like what sort of shutter speed, what sort of aperture you should be doing. If you're already using cameras, you probably know exactly what you should be doing, right? But in terms of presentation, in terms of the actual layout, you know, the layering, you know, everything that I just talked about, light, you know, and the colors, the contrast, you know, everything helps to present your photographs to your viewers. Great, excellent. So let's see. I saw a couple of comments here, and let's see if I can talk a little bit about it. And let's see. Travis said London is easy for street photo. I don't think that it's the same reception in my local town. Well, you never know. You know, I know. Yes, cities obviously they have more elements you can do, Trevor. But sometimes, even if you're in a little village and a very remote area, there is always people. You know, there's always one. You know, it may only be one or two. But all you need to do is just capture the one or two, you know, just like that shot that I just showed you, and at the end the bridge shot. So so you don't need something very complicated. Something relatively simple can also do the job nicely. I mean, obviously, I haven't seen your area, and I don't know exactly what the structures are, streets or aisles, you know, and anything like that. I have no idea. But there's always an opportunity to create something, just depending on how you want to present it. Of course, it may not look like a modern city shot, but it can always be something else. It's you just have to kind of find a way to tune into it. It may not be street photography, for instance. If just not suitable, you can maybe do exactly something else. You can do a more like an artistic village shots, almost like a painting shot. There are ways to get around things, and I wouldn't really say that you or expect people to do a street photography in a very small village, because the vibe is totally different. You don't have that modern architectures, you don't have that lines and shapes usually in villages. So it can be a very, very different type of photography, but it doesn't get away with the exact same point I was making about presentations, light, and all the other stuff. So yeah, it can be fun. Once you start thinking about it, once you start thinking how you can create a better looking shot, then you will be able to explore a little bit more in photography. So Burana, you have something here as well, and cook with photograph, light, composition, right moment, camera, lens, battery, and memory too. yes, of course. Yeah, I haven't really talked about camera gears. Well, in today, only because it doesn't really matter. Any camera can do the job. Of course, it will help, like I mentioned so many times now. New features, automated features, and will definitely help you to get the shot. But it doesn't take away that you being a chef, to be better. Just like, again, use cooking as an example once again. In the old days, everything has to be done by hand. Remember, everything, you have to use your tools manually for everything. But now that you have machine to do things for you, you have, you can even see the timers, temperature, everything can be very, very accurate. This is exactly like photography. You now have digital cameras, you now have really advanced automated eye tracking. All this stuff here is all automated for you, but it doesn't take away the skills that you have. You still have to know how to use it, right? So it's the same thing. It's no difference. You have these automated tools in the kitchen that will help the chef to do the shot more accurately, maybe more consistent. That's another thing. So camera is the same thing. It help you get things more accurately, more consistent. It's exactly the same thing. So I don't think it will be a hindrance for you as a photographer. Even if you use a 10-year-old camera or maybe a film camera, it doesn't really take away that skills. You as a photographer, you will have the skills always within you to execute that particular dish. And so it's really down to you as a photographer. Like I always say, the camera is a tool and they will help you to get there, but it doesn't really say that the camera can make that shot for you. No, it doesn't. You are still in control for every single step. So despite you now have all sorts of automations within modern cameras, and but if you purely relying on the automations there, you're not going to be a great photographer. The camera may, like for instance, I give you a good example, like the EM1 Mark III has really fantastic eye and face detection. Now you can see that it definitely will focus and tracks the person, even if he or she moving left and right and center, up and down, forward, backward, and things like that. It will continue to track that. But will it make a good portrait? No, but it will be in focus. But then it doesn't mean that it's a great portrait shot. So you still have to understand and how you can create all kinds of things, that be complementing the subject, or how you can capture the emotion, the actual character of the portrait, the person, him or herself. So these are very, very important things. As a photographer, only you can see that. The computer doesn't see any of that. The computer may recognize the eyes and faces, but that's all. You still have to click the shutters at the right timing. Remember what I just said? The light has to be great. The camera can't decide it for you. The camera can see exposure, will analyze the exposure for you, but you as a photographer still have to understand and execute that exposure, because sometimes the exposure can be full, like you all know about it now. Or you're all experienced enough to know the camera can be full in terms of exposure. The metering system not always correct. So if you want to create a certain type of look, you will have to manually, if you're using aperture, shutter speed priority, you have to use exposure compensation to dial it down or dial it up to compensate the look that you want to go for. Of course, when you shoot manually, it's very different, but same thing, and when you're cooking a dish, you have to taste it. Yeah, you know exactly what it tastes like, and maybe I just need to add more salt or something like that. Just get that punch there, get the taste there, to release that taste, whatever. I'm not a chef. I'm just using it as an example, and it's the same thing. So it's really, really interesting how close photography and cooking really is between the two. You need everything that I just said to create a better and great photograph. So that's it. And this is today's live stream. Hopefully you guys all take notes for something, and then we understand a little bit how I actually work, and in terms of whenever I do a photograph, what's behind my head, thinking about how to cook things in my head for a photograph. It's always very interesting to kind of talk about photography, because I love talking about photography. You probably should know by now. Yeah, otherwise I wouldn't be able to do like almost 3 months of a live stream every day from Monday to Friday. Just talk about all this stuff here. I've definitely had some sort of passion, or I'm just going nuts, right? Brianna, you got something here. What is the most common setting on super control panel? Sharpness, contrast, highlight, shadow, midtone. Right. Interesting question. And on my super control panel, I do tweak my base setting for highlight and shadow. I usually create a much flatter pictures for me to for post-production, because I shoot raw, unless I'm shooting my PenF, which I use the JPEG sometimes. But most of the cases I shoot in RAW, but in just RAW as well, because I like to see everything quite flat, so I can tune everything myself. I would do the Olympus. You can tune the curve. So I usually just do compress the actual highlight and boost the shadow area, so you make it a little bit flatter for me to process later on. Sharpness, I actually don't really care, because I'm shooting RAW anyway. White balance is another thing. It sounds weird, but I do use what I would call the underwater white balance in the Olympus camera. The underwater white balance, for some reason, it gives me the most realistic color tones ever. Of course, when you shoot RAW, you can tweak it later in post anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But it really does look natural for me. Unless it's bright sunny day like today, and I would set it back to sunny day, because the Kelvin's 5500K is actually more realistic that way. And but quite a lot of the time, actually right now, I'm using the underwater white balance for the live stream, so you can see that the skin tone is actually quite good, and also the flat profile that I'm talking about. I'm not using lock profile at the moment. I'm just tweaking the curve, so you can see that my shadow is not as black as you can see. So this is kind of like the setting I'm using for my control panel. I can do a demo later, because I do have a gadget just arrived yesterday, so I can finally show you how things work on screen. So I need to do some testing first. So now I will be able to demonstrate how you can set up your things on screen, so you can see how I tweak my things when I'm doing live stream like today. So that would be really good, right? Cool. Trevor, you going now, so bye for Trevor. Thank you for joining me once again. That's pretty cool. Excellent stuff. So okay, that's it. So I am super happy. I'm super happy all of you guys had joined me today. How wonderful to see a few comments, and of course it's Thursday. Yeah, it's good. So you guys keep me going, because I love talking to you guys. Just really happy that have some friends I can speak to and be passionate about photography and talk about all things photography and filmmaking stuff like that. Camera, I'm just a nuts about camera stuff. It's always good. Brianna, excellent. Thank you, and you're going as well. So I think it's time for me to sign off. So hopefully you guys enjoyed today's live stream, and don't forget that I do this Monday to Friday between 11 to 11:30 a.m. GMT London time. I also run a weekly Wednesday live on my YouTube channel, Red 35 Photography. It's Photography 101. It's a fun, big community there. We have a lot of followers in the YouTube channel, so like the live stream is usually very busy. So it's really fun Wednesday. So like if you guys are happy to join in, you're very welcome to go to my YouTube channel and go and have some fun and talk about everything. Similar to what we do today, but it's in more details because there's a lot more interactions there. It's all really fun. Thank you guys, and also don't forget I have a buy me a coffee, and thank you. A lot of you guys already actually bought me coffees, and always great to see some support from you guys. And but like I mentioned, anytime even you're tuning in, I'm really very happy. So you don't have to buy me a coffee. But I'm super happy about everything. And great to see everybody's happy and healthy. That's the most important thing in today's world. So I'm hoping all this pandemic thing is going to go away very soon. And you guys will be safe and be able to go out and meet your friends and family once again. We just want our life to go back to where it was, right? Including myself, I can't wait to go back out to see friends and family, shooting with clients, and have some fun doing my YouTube channels and things like that. That will be cool. But anyway, I don't want to drag on any longer, so I know you guys will have a lot to go on. So I will see you guys all not next week, tomorrow is my last stream of the week. Tomorrow is Friday, and then will be weekend, so I will see you tomorrow if you are here. If not, I'll see you next week sometime. So have a nice day. Bye for now.